Okay, Garelli moped things. So we got a 2-stroke motor. These came in 2-speed and 1-speed versions. I do not know which one I have. Genuinely, I thought it was a 2-speed when I first glanced at it, but I'm not positive. I'm not well versed enough to know exactly what these are. So we're gonna start with the pedal arms, and then there might be some spacers on the other side. Look at this terrible dog. Bailey. Yeah, guilty. The whole internet knows how terrible of a dog you are. Anyways, I'm trying to eat towels? Who does that? I don't understand. Anyways, we got a 10 mil. It's the important tool, I think. But we'll pop these off and start disassembling some of this. And we are going to bag and tag. Well, I'm actually not going to grab bags or tag anything, but essentially we are going to take most of this apart. I'm throwing all of this in a box to go to the shop tomorrow, and Dottie will decide, what's going to get blasted, what is not going to get blasted. So, using impact tools to go faster because I'm impatient. I'll grab an actual hammer here. Dead blow was not enough to suffice. So on this style, when you're dealing with mopeds, you get a couple different types of pedal start shafts. Hey, do you mind? Either of you? No? Are we gonna behave? Okay. I've been cooped up the last handful of days because I've been so busy. So they're a little on the extra crazy side. Now, on the pedal shafts for these mopeds, there's 2 starting styles. On a Pook, you will usually have a pedal shaft that goes through the frame, not through the case. Most of the Italian ones, on the other hand, use these little tapered roll pins, if you will. They drop in on one side, and then it's a tapered shaft, so these will slide all the way through, but when you put them on over the shaft itself, they lock down. So you get your Italian style, which will go through the actual case, and then you have your floating style that goes through the frame, which is fine. Does not matter to me either way. It's essentially like the counter shaft, right? Like you have a separate shaft with bearings and seals and sprockets and all the other parts on the inside. Come on, let go. Depending on the type of bike and motor. I like the Italian style personally. I like having everything be a little bit separated, even though it all ends up being the same thing at the end of the day. It's how do you start it? The downside to that is, if you look on the top case here on the left cover, this right here is our clutch engagement. So if the pedals run through the motor, you're turning over a lot of parts that aren't engaged, and then they become engaged when I pull on the clutch. Garelli's, that's a terrible problem. Dogs, an even worse problem. They don't know how to behave. Just rude, selfish animals. They've been cooped up. This is normal. They're not gonna kill each other. It sounds worse than it is. But it's annoying, so actually they're gonna go back inside. Got the pedal shafts off. Now I'm gonna pop this clutch cover off. Oh, I didn't take these out. Connecting rod for the factory stuff. We're not gonna reuse that. New bearing coming, and this kit should come with a new wrist pin. So we'll throw those in the bin. And let's try and break some screws. Whole lot of flatheads on here. So I'm just gonna loosen these all the way around. So you got 6 bolts on the case itself, and then the clutch lever up top. This would normally be hooked up to a cable, but we already disassembled all of that, which we'll get back into on the reassembly video. And there's the oil that I was hoping would stay in. I didn't know how much was actually, it's so clean in here. I was hoping most of that would stay in the bike, but we can make a mess, it's okay. That's what mats are for. Now I can drop this back down, and then I'll lay this down too, just try and drain some of this off. I don't know if this is getting coated or if we're gonna polish that one up. Then we got the clutch, drive gear, sprocket, final drive gear comes out the other side. So there's a lot of overlap between this and some of the Harley stuff, even though it's significantly different. The insides, you got a standard crank, one piston. So picture one piston on a Harley. You got your flywheel or crank assembly, tapered shafts on both sides, the clutches bolt too, and then the stator on the other side, just like a shovel head. And then one case that runs through, and then all of the transmission is this gear here. So this is a 1-speed as far as I can tell from first glance. Didn't really do a thorough look here yet, but looks like a 1-speed to me, which is good because I ordered an upgraded clutch disc for that, which we'll take a look at here in a minute. I also just realized I forgot my puller for the ignition, so we're gonna see how far we can get. This might be a 2-day video. While this is draining, I'll just pop the chain off and just start disassembling some of this stuff. Try and reuse this chain. The more you replace, the more expensive it gets. So I think this one's in decent shape, but if I can't turn any of these links or they're totally worn out, then we'll swap it. But as of right now, it's a moped. Not gonna see a ton of mileage. So if I can get by for a little while on a stock one, we will. Go, pop that free, master link, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And once you can pry it up a little bit, just get underneath it. Separate those, wiggle this off. Come on, a little muddy. There we go. I like to put the master links back together. Typically I'll leave them right on the chain just like this, on one end. Slap this back on and then reclip it at least 3/4 of the way. And then this will go right back into the box. Rotate this through. Like so. And this will go right back in the box until we need it. Still draining a little bit. I got the cover kicked up here too. So we're making quite a mess, but that's okay. I can't believe I forgot the pullers. That's kind of an important part. I'm gonna have to leave this on regardless of however far we get. Most of the case bolts should come in from the other side, so we might be able to separate the other half of the case and then kind of leave this together. I don't know. I'm not an expert on this. We will figure that out as we progress. I have a kit for all of the moped, different flywheels. 50 bucks. Highly recommend it. But we'll see how far we can get today. Pop the sleeves off of this. And then we'll come back to the clutch side. So snap ring here, you're going to want to use a snap ring tool or carefully do it with a screwdriver and try not to hurt yourself. Like so. Snap ring, clutch. Now, here's one of the main issues you run into. Snap ring, clutch. All of the clutch fingers on this are rubber. So it's basically like little pieces of fuel line, essentially. They dry rot, like these are, and turn into hard plastic, like so. So I did not order those, unfortunately. We're going to probably have to freshen those up. We got a snap ring, and the clutch basket, and then this is the clutch. It's rubber. So they take 50 type, 30 weight non-detergent. They wear down quick, We should have a brand new version of this, an upgraded one where I can actually run ATF as well, or any type of oiling. But snap ring, clutch basket, plate, pressure plate essentially, clutch, rubber, crappy, junk, spring goes on the inside. Then we get into the nut, and then we have all these little clutch fingers, and like I said, this is supposed to be rubber. It is very hard, brittle plastic at this point. So I might have gotten the little rollers too, actually. I think I might have been proactive and did that. We'll find out. But time will tell on that one. These are so shot. For how clean everything was, I was hoping it'd be nice, but these are rock hard. Useless. So we'll clean all these up at some point too. Now I can get to that clutch basket nut. I think it's a 17. Yep. Electric impact helps quite a bit. When I first started working on these, electric impacts weren't really a thing. I had electric drills, but not impacts. So what I'm going to do now is actually start kind of laying out a handful of this just the way it came out of the bike, just to keep it a little bit more organized, because I know there's going to be a ton of shims in here. So this will all kind of go together right here, and then more of the broken clutch bits that we just took out, sort of. And the clutch basket will come out, and here are the star washer shims. These also wear out. Kind of pricey, but it's a star washer and a shim all in one. That's what grabs onto these splines on the teeth on the crank. So we'll drop this right here and put our clutch basket. Like I said, lots of shims that sat on the back there. So this will go right here, like so, and this can live there. I'll put a pig mat down underneath that as well. Right now, maybe there's a manual or a tutorial of some sort, but I'm going to leave all of this clutch stuff together. Sometimes I'll take the parts that I can and zip tie them, but we're going to leave this just like that and make a nice little spot for this right over here. I'm hoping that this motor is not apart for more than a couple days. We do have a good amount of case grinding and porting to do as well, but we'll see. So now, move on to the sprocket. Nut. Spacer, shim, washer. How tight are you? Will you pop up? Or do I need a puller? Hopefully not. We'll see. Okay, so this sprocket's actually pressed onto this big gear drive sprocket is essentially the counter shaft. And so we'll pull this one off on the clutch side, or on the sprocket side as well.
Missing some power tools?
Some. It's stronger than an impact with 1% battery. Yeah, always.
Wow. Just so you and your YouTube people know, if you keep kicking your shoes off into my bookshelf, I'm going to murder you
I don't kick
while
them.
you're sleeping.
I don't kick them off in there.
I found your boots tucked next to my books.
That's from when I turned Roomba on.
It's weird. It's not the first time it's happened. It's like,
You heard it, Internet.
who does that?
Okay, so we have the sprocket nut. I just needed to freshen up the battery on the impact. We have a nut, washer, thick washer, spacer, toothed one, sprocket, another thick star washer, toothed, and then we just have a shaft and a seal. So this is our important sprocket side. We can't really mess that one up. Hopefully we don't have to shim it for the new wheels. If we do, that's where we'll add spacers. Then we come back to this side, and let's see how Harley-esque this is. Might be able to free this up a little bit. Not all that much. Sprocket's free here. I'm going to zip tie these so we don't forget. And we'll figure out how to get that gear off here in a second. Alright, so we're trying to get this sprocket off of the shaft. Don't know if these are the right tools. I don't, just kind of dug through the pullers that I have here. Hopefully this is enough to pull it off. If not, we'll break a tool. Or it'll work. Don't really know yet. Definitely crooked, but there's threads and stuff. Don't know what's grabbing where. Definitely bit in on the backside. It was thin enough to sit in the jaws. I wish I could give you guys a better view of this, because not really the recommended tool for this, but we'll see what happens. Something's gonna give. Either the tool or this gear will come off. No idea which will go first. Yeah. Feels like it's stripping. Ooh, yeah, we bent the crap out of that. Keep going a couple more turns. Not quitting yet. Well, we already broke the tool. You can see the bend right there. So maybe not. Let's see if we can grab something else. It's kind of a goofy one. The holes through the sprocket are not that big. What did we do here? Come on, loosen up. I'm sorry for breaking you. I apologize. Whew. Forgot about that. I thought we just got unlucky on the puller on the ignition side, but apparently this might actually take a little bit of thought. So I don't know if I can get in there with a 3-jaw. Basically I have this here. I don't want to pound on the shaft and well, mess up any of the threads. What happens if I separate the case first? Here's the counter shaft-ish, or the sprocket shaft that comes through. This is linked to the said gear, so all of this is one unit. This won't come through anymore because that's going to be bottomed out on the bearing. I think I might be able to put a nut on here. Maybe that'll slide through. I'm gonna start digging. So this is not the right way to do it. I don't know enough, and I don't want to spend the time looking at what I need to do. So I think I'm gonna start popping the case bolts out and see what happens. There might be a chance that we can pry this off this way, and this will come through the bearing. Yeah, let's find out. Let me grab an impact. So the case bolts are usually pretty tight. Cue it up for loosen and we'll just work our way around the case bolts. So all we're trying to do is break the heads free. I'm not taking any of the bolts out yet. I should have 2 up front. Now we can loosen these all up. Bolts are all free, so I'm going to pull all the case bolts and then we're just going to kind of start pulling on things and see what stays connected, what needs to come off. I don't want to say that I'm going blindly into this and I've never done it, because that's not true. I've done one or two, but it's been a very, very long time and I don't remember them. I didn't check a manual, I didn't check anything. So let's learn this together. And if you're watching this and have done several Garellis and know exactly what I'm doing wrong, please let me know in the comments. I appreciate that. I like the feedback. Other than that, I'm just kind of taking things apart and hoping that I remember how they go back together. So I'll pull these ones here through the gear. There's two. I know we still have these pinch bolts on here from the motor mounts as well, but those are quick and easy to get apart if we need to. And it is nice having all the flatheads. I think in the parts order I actually replaced all of the hardware with Allen's as well. So we'll see if that includes all the case bolt stuff. They are different sizes, but typically when they are different sizes, they all kind of go back together in one spot. If it's way short, it's not too hard to figure out what's short, what's not. Is this magnetized? Do I have one with a magnet? Strong magnet? Come on. Come on, science. Don't let me down. No, not so much. So the case bolts that I have on here are loose. There's enough play to actually start splitting some of these cases. I just don't know with the magneto on here if I'm going to have... Oh, that's just a seal. So in theory, some of this should start loosening up. So let's try and get the bolts out here behind the sprocket. There's one of two. And line it up. Come on. I know you guys can't see this because I'm on the back side, but that's loose. There we go. 2 of 2. So the case bolts are free now. What else we got? We got case bolts out. I don't know what else is on the ignition. You're going to have a keyway typically on the stator. So there should be a keyway somewhere around here, and then the base is mounted directly into the case. So I don't know if that's going to be an issue for us. And got a little bit of a gap here. I'm not going to go crazy pounding on this, but let's see if we can get a little bit of wiggle room. So the case is starting to split here a little bit. A little bit there. So we're just going to kind of work this down nice and slow. Most of that's coming apart. Just looking for the big gaps in between the gasket. And we are going on mating surfaces, so I don't want to go too crazy here. I'm not trying to distort all the aluminum, but at least just create a little bit of a gap here and see if we can shimmy a little bit out. Okay. She does not want to turn anymore, which is expected. I gotta get this gear off. How am I gonna do that? Nothing. A little bit of split on the case, but nothing major. Okay, so I gotta figure out how to get this gear off one way or another. Let me look into that a little bit. Use the old Google machine because I'm not an expert, and we will be back. I don't know if it's gonna be today or tomorrow because Dottie's cooking dinner. It's getting late, and I don't have parts to do anything more with this anyway. Okay, so I got everything disassembled. All the case bolts are loose. The case is starting to separate on the back. I don't know what's going on with the countershaft or the gear or how I'm going to pull the gear out yet, so we're going to wait on that. But I was thinking about the CDI. So this is a tapered crankshaft. This is press fit onto it and then locked down with a nut on the outside. I have all the pullers. I forgot to bring them. I didn't think it would matter. I was hoping the case would separate, but I don't know which side of the case, this side or this side, that the crank's going to be more pressed into. So I'm going to put this on pause for now. I will bring the pullers back tomorrow, pop the flywheel and all the ignition stuff out. So basically pull the nut, thread in an outer thread here, and then it's got a puller that pushes on the flywheel here. That'll pop the flywheel off, and then hopefully once that's off, we can start prying a little bit more and get this thing separated, and then I'll take tomorrow while I'm at work and a little bit of free time hopefully to look up the gear and figure out what needs to happen on there. I just don't want to start prying on this or beating on the countershaft or other parts with this still together, because technically all of this should stay on the left side of the case, but I don't know if the flywheel is going to come out of this side of the case, then this would be fine. If the flywheel needs to go that way, that will never happen with this on here, and the more I've been prying on it, this has actually been snugging up a little bit tighter. So I'm hoping that once the stator is off, then we can pop this that way and the crank will stay on the right side, transmission side of the case. Don't know, but we'll be back tomorrow. I don't really know if that's gonna work, but hopefully I don't wanna do anything else until I get this off, because this was turning over free and now it's kind of getting tight since we started trying to separate or gap anything on here. So before we break anything, should have researched this before we started taking it apart, but before we go any further, I'm gonna wait. I'll take this nut off and grab the flywheel puller, yank this off without breaking any of the magnets and stuff in there, because I don't want to buy an ignition. And then we'll come back tomorrow and start getting more of this apart. See you then.